One of the biggest things that Obi-Wan Kenobi has been criticized for over his long life is the fact that he left Anakin Skywalker to die on Mustafar. Or rather, he did not finish the job on Mustafar. Many have criticized his decision to leave Anakin there, even though deep within himself, he felt a calm clarity, as if the will of the Force was propelling Obi-Wan not to go down and destroy the young boy. The boy that had been transformed into something wicked in the Sith Lord Vader. Obi-Wan could sense that the very will of the Force was wanting him not to kill Anakin in this moment. And not to mention, Obi-Wan could sense Palpatine approaching within his shuttle, and so he needed to make his escape quickly. With all of that said though, there is another important reason that Obi-Wan gives in the novel The Life and Legend of Obi-Wan Kenobi that explains why Obi-Wan did not go down and destroy Vader in their final moment. Instead, it reveals that he thought about it, and that he very much entertained the idea of going down and ending the job, killing Vader right there on Mustafar, but ultimately in the end, why he decided not to because of mercy. But not the sort of mercy that you would think right off the top of your head. A twisted mercy, or rather, a lack thereof. So anyway, my friends and acolytes of the Force, welcome back to the archives, and today, we will be looking at why Obi-Wan Kenobi feared that he would ultimately turn to the dark side of the Force if he definitively finished the job and killed Anakin on Mustafar. To understand this though, I would also like to look at the novelization for Revenge of the Sith and analyze Obi-Wan's mindset when dueling Anakin. When dueling Anakin on Mustafar, Obi-Wan knew that if he went in with any sort of hesitation, Anakin would strike him down quickly and without regret. Because of this, Obi-Wan had to completely separate the boy that he trained in Anakin within his mind to this new Sith Lord that stood before him in Lord Vader. This was the only way that Obi-Wan was going to be able to duel Vader successfully. He could not hesitate at all, and because of that, he viewed him as an enemy, and as most enemies, indifferent. Obi-Wan would let the will of the Force guide his blade, but he would do so tactically, with the sole intention of defeating Darth Vader, something that Darth Sidious would even praise Obi-Wan for in the years after, stating that if all Jedi had fought like Kenobi had in the Clone Wars, that the Sith could have never risen to power. Obi-Wan Kenobi went to Mustafar with the singular mind to kill Lord Vader. This is why it makes it so intriguing in the end why he would decide not to. And unfortunately, the novelization for Revenge of the Sith leaves us with a lot of questions, as it just states that Obi-Wan feels a great sense of peace, and instead believes it's the will of the Force that he should leave Anakin and not kill him there. But the Life and Legend of Obi-Wan Kenobi offers a far darker explanation, and one that says that Obi-Wan would have embraced the dark side if he had gone down and killed Anakin. The novelization explains this in the Journals of Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's also important to note that chronologically, this happens about 3 years after his duel with Revenge of the Sith, and Obi-Wan has had 3 years on Tatooine of hindsight to look back at the duel in his own mindset, discovering that he was deeply flawed mentally at the conclusion of the duel. In the journals, Obi-Wan calls it the merciful thing to actually go down and to kill Anakin. The boy was suffering, and Obi-Wan could ensure that the suffering would end, and that it would be cemented that the Sith would be destroyed in the galaxy in one fell swoop. As Anakin Skywalker screamed out in pain though, Obi-Wan could only hear the screams of Lord Vader, the separation in his mind complete. In this analysis, Obi-Wan looks back at this and explains that he had absolutely no mercy whatsoever for the Sith Lord, and because of this, within himself he had absolutely no desire to go down and end the Dark Lord's suffering. It could even be said that for the briefest of moments, Obi-Wan relished in the suffering of his enemy in the Sith. Anakin Skywalker was completely gone just as Yoda had told him, and this was something that Obi-Wan had bought into completely. The boy Anakin was dead to him, and the only person before him now was the man that betrayed everything, betrayed the Jedi, betrayed the Republic, and to Obi-Wan Kenobi's mind, Vader had become something so irredeemable, something far more twisted than Maul and Ventress. This was something that Anakin had chosen. This dark path was not thrust upon Anakin. Instead, he actively decided to venture down that path and to conquer the galaxy as a Dark Lord. This was something that Obi-Wan could not forgive. And therefore, within the journals, Obi-Wan writes that if he were to go down and kill Anakin, everything that he had brought to the surface now would be rage, fury against the Dark Lord of the Sith. There would be nothing merciful about it whatsoever. He would strike down his enemy out of pure rage, pure hatred even. Something that was very much not the Jedi way. His feelings of anger and hatred towards Anakin were so strong, in fact, that Obi-Wan believed that if he were to indulge in these emotions for even a moment, that he would be thrust down the dark path forever, and that Obi-Wan would have done the same thing that Anakin did. He would have turned to the dark side and be forced to commit to its lure. This was something that Obi-Wan could not do. He was one of the last Jedi in the entire galaxy, and it took every fiber of his being to turn around and continue down that light path. Obi-Wan had the opportunity to look his enemy in the eye and to turn away. This was something that just a few days earlier, Anakin Skywalker could not turn away from, as he looked his greatest enemy in Dooku in the eye. He had no mercy for Darth Tyrannus whatsoever, only rage, and it was because of that Anakin cut him down. Obi-Wan knew that the same rage, the same call of the dark side, and its fateful song was now singing to him as well. And Obi-Wan had seen firsthand the consequences of listening to it. Obi-Wan also felt, though, that the fate of Lord Vader had now grown beyond him. He had done his job, his duty even as a Jedi Knight, and now he would leave it completely to the will of the Force to decide whether or not Anakin lived or died that day. Something that in the years following, the ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn would praise his former apprentice in Kenobi a great deal, as Obi-Wan grew more and more in tune to the true balance of the Force, and the living Force itself. But if this video accomplished anything, I would hope that it would add more depth to Obi-Wan Kenobi in the final confrontation with Vader, and the fact that he actively thought about going down and destroying the Sith right then and there. But because of the reasons for doing so, Obi-Wan had to stay his own hand and remain firmly on the Jedi path, something that was now more important to him than ever, especially after the Order had crumbled. Sometimes, not doing anything can be the right decision, and by stopping himself from making the wrong decision and leaving Anakin there, the galaxy and the Sith would indeed one day be saved. But anyway, my friends and acolytes, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on Obi-Wan's conflicted emotions on the shores of Mustafar, and the fact that he had absolutely no mercy for Vader whatsoever, and that if he had traveled down there and killed Anakin, Vader on the volcanic shore, that he would have been thrust down the dark path that Anakin too had been on with the death of Dooku. As always, my friends, thank you so much for visiting the channel and the archives today, and as always, may the Force be with you.